Hello everyone. So I'm here recording for because of the lack of time to conduct the synchronous class. So this will be the chapter 9, air cargo security from volume 2 of the book. So let's start the discussion directly. So without consuming any time. So air cargo security. When we say air cargo security, it's rising. Actually, air cargo is the volume of air cargo is rising compared to pre-pandemic mode. And before pre-pandemic mode, the industry of cargo industry is approximately around 60 billion, but it doesn't include the value of related industries such as packaging material supplier, insurance carriers, and providers of ancillary administrative functions. And industry outside of the direct shippers is comprised of domestic passengers, air carrier, dedicated couriers, private air freighters, forwarders, brokers, and consolidators. Usually that means the air cargo can be shipped from different ways, not only from the cargo aircraft. Even within the cargo compartment of the passenger aircraft, we can ship the cargo, which is rising these days because of the pandemic. Even the volume of passengers travel is decreasing because of the different restrictions in different countries, but the volume of the cargo is not decreasing because most of the people they are ordering online. So because of ordering online, the home deliveries, so for example like a Lazada, Shopee, and there are many more platforms actually. So those online shopping platforms will use that air cargo. That's the reason they can deliver your shipping within 3 to 4 days after you order. Because if you depend on the cargo, the water cargo by the ship, it will take a long time, longer than probably 3 to 1 month, or sometimes it can even last for 2 to 3 months, depending on the origination of that package. But if it is the air cargo, doesn't matter at what corner of the world is that manufactured. It can be delivered to your doorstep within few days. That is all because of this air cargo. So air cargo can be carried by the passenger aircraft together with the passenger in the cargo compartment, or it can have a dedicated air cargo like the DHL, DHL, and many more. Actually, DHL is one of DHL, FedEx. They are the leading company who transfer the cargo internationally. Plus, even the private aircraft, especially small aircraft, they are being used to ship the cargo within the domestic region. For example, here in the Philippines, also there are many uh, fish product, sea product, which is from Palawan, etc. They will be delivered here in the malls, the shopping centers, in the malls by using the Gen Av private aircraft. Plus, it involves a lot of peoples, not only the cargo. There will be the freight forwarders, the trucking industries. They will deliver the cargo to the airline receiving area or the cargo terminals, etc. So these are only few that compromise the air matrix, but there are several other metrics, even including the land movers, not only by the air cargo. So we're here we are talking about the air cargo only. Let's just focus on the air cargo. So mostly the valuable items which need to valuable as well as those items which need to be delivered within few days or few hours. Mostly perishable items like flour, the food items, fresh vegetables, etc. They need to be delivered as soon as the farmers will pick up from their farm. So any one of the several incidents could have devastating effect on the world commerce and effectively shut down the commerce as we know. And we had the example actually in 2003, the port strike in California caused commercially supply chain billions in losses daily and crippled the sea import worldwide for the 6 months. Actually, we can see few years ago there was an accident in the runway in the Manila International Airport. Because of that one, the runway was in operational for 2 days, approximately 2 days. During that time, most of the cargo they were affected. So the farmers with the perishable items had to suffer that time. And even in the malls, you actually the price of certain commodities got increased during that time because it was not they were not being able to supply it through the Manila terminal or the Manila International Airport. And there are many elements in of supply chain and logistical security in the air freighter business. Physical issues such as secure packaging, handling, storage, transfer, chain of custody, and delivery of goods only scratch the surface where vulnerability is concerned. But there's are certain weakness also. Weakness in any one of the area can lead to the disaster. No matter how hard we try, there are no reasonable way to control all aspect of the unattended cargo and air facilities. So it happens actually there are the several cargo items that can be shipped through the cargo, and usually they are divided into DG good and non-DG good. So mostly if they are the dangerous good, there must be a proper care that should be taken, especially in the packaging, handling, and storage, as well as doing the transfer. Because they are the dangerous good, so it can even the minor mishandling of that package can be a dangerous to the aircraft, dangerous to the people who are handling, and not all the dangerous good are allowed on the flight as well. So during the handling itself or delivering the good itself to the receiver or the shipper, everything must be segregated properly as well. So this is complicated by the fact that transporting the air cargo from shipper to the carrier present a potentially serious threat since the chain of custody is rarely verified. So usually when you deliver your package to the supply receiver, especially like for example DHL. So when they receive your package, it's not necessary that they will verify all the package, all the content of your package. Pero as per standard procedure, they are supposed to check the package item by item. Each package should be packed in front of that representative of the shipper. So if they do not check it, there's a possibility that there might be a certain items that can be illegal, that can be dangerous items, like example, explosives, knife, firearms, and other dangerous goods that cannot be used as a weapon, but they are still dangerous. Like for example, oxygen cylinders, the batteries. So they can be a dangerous good. So probably those items must be verified during the receiving by the shipper. And cargo is typically defined as a unit with no particular emphasis on the physical or X-ray inspection of any one box or pallet. So usually when you uh, turn over your package to the shipper, they will not usually check your package in the X-ray as well. So your package will only pass through the X-ray once it is delivered. The shipper will deliver that package to the cargo terminal. So there are several cargo in that cargo terminal. That means your cargo has the certain kind of potential that can be a dangerous good or that can be threat to the security. That means you are bringing that threat to the all the cargo that are in the cargo terminal as well. So hence it is fairly easy to surrep- uh, surreptitiously introduce the weapon or the contraband into the innocuous bundle. Individual courier packets get rather more inspection than the bulk cargo compartment. Bulk cargo, because you are just a small shipper. When you deliver it to the shipper, they will check your item one by one. So they will pass through the more inspection. But if you are transferring or shipping the certain items in the bulk or in the bigger package, they rarely get into several inspection. They will probably pass through the X-ray only one or two times until it is being delivered to the aircraft, and that can also be retrieved by the people inside the aircraft as well. So that's the time it will be traced. But as long as that package is not uh, none of the people on board have access to that package, it is still normal security trade. I mean, minimal security trade. But if there's a possibility that that package can end up to the hand of the people who have the intention to do something bad, that can be a threat to the aircraft as well. So that's why it happened in the past as well, especially if the aircraft is the passenger aircraft, which has the cargo on the lower compartments, like 9/11 incident, September 11, 2001 incident, that also end up all the firearms in the inside the aircraft through the packages, which was planted in the cargo compartment as well as planted by the mechanics on board the aircraft. So no matter how the cargo you deliver it, whether it's a small or the bulk, the generic nature of packaging air cargo all looks like same. Say there are standard packaging procedures. The only different is the inspection procedure. Because for the small packages, it will pass through the X-ray. But for the bulk packaging, especially it is used commercially, the shipping is done commercially. Those packages will hardly pass through the X-rays many times. Probably one time is already enough, and that is already late for the people to detect, or that's already late because it already will be on the aircraft without when it is being detected. So since most of the air cargo is first screened at its destination, chance to interdict the weapon would only come after the arrival, and that is far too late already because anyone can who know the aircraft design can access those equipments on board. And security contentments and the control of unattended cargo can only be achieved when all logistics can be verified, right down to the pre-inspection and final verification of boarded cargo. In order to achieve the operational efficiency, however, air cargo is moved along quickly, and the future most desired by its biggest client as well. See, because that is the intention of air cargo to deliver it as soon as possible. So, regardless of the type of transportation that is chosen, secure packaging, sealing, and inspection of cargo is essential. Even for the normal items, there are certain requirements for the sealing and packaging. So, without it, no one is ever sure if the packaging is original and if the goods are actually still in the box, or if the box was switched with the weapon or the loaded drug. Since the choice of shipping boxes or container is made by the shipper, and the choice of bundling of various random items of freight is made by the carrier, little can be done to create the standard by inspection procedure could be established. And the lack of interaction between the cargo handlers makes most air cargo unidentifiable. And that is true actually. So typically, the smaller generic packets are placed in the sea containers or the air totes with as many as 1,000 small individual boxes inside. And the chance of discovering the good have been stolen and finding the tainted freight or interdicting the disarming a terrorist planted weapon in the air cargo is small for those small packaging, because there are several packages inside the one box, and those small boxes it landed with the other many small boxes. So to receive or to retract those items from the small boxes, it's hard for the terrorist. But if it is in the big items, it's easy. They can access easily as well. So the random bundling techniques associated with the air cargo intensifies the risk of tampering with the unit within the bundle, since everything looks the same. And containerized sea freight is typically palletized, or usually those containers they comes in the pallet or the palleted container itself. Or it can also be floor loaded to maximum cube of the enclosure and locked and sealed and nested aboard the aircraft. So the aircraft will have only the minimum of waste space. Plus, those packages or those pallets will not move within the aircraft, damaging the aircraft structures. So, however, The air cargo is randomly stacked and net is trapped on the aircraft pallet, which creates easy accessibility for skilled thieves or terrorists before or during or even after the transport. And the speed with which goods are transported, combined with the inherent risk of the damage, theft, tampering, spoilage, and introduction of contraband makes the air cargo that much harder to monitor or secure as well. These are the possible risks that we have in the air cargo. That is, one is the damage, risk of damage. Another is the theft. Another is the tampering, spoilage, or also a possibility of introduction of contraband in your packages, which we generally call it planting. So the fact that many as five different companies may have handled the package or sorted the cargo, with none of them responsible for security functions, make for the perfect environment in which to steal the goods or the worse. And since most air cargo transfer the cargo on the truck for delivery, little information that could pick up the peculiarities is shared between the original shipper and the handler. So it might be through the barcodes or might be through the description written on the package itself. And the ability that air carrier have to deploy the cargo quickly is the cross of the issue. The speed is the operative word in defining the air cargo risk. Because the slower the speed of the delivery, the more apt you are to discover the problem before they become a disaster. And for this reason, interdicting the truck or the sea cargo is far easier than the air. And the slower the freighter moves, the more the hands and the eyes are on the cargo. Kasi there will be a lot of people who are touching that cargo if the cargo is moving slowly. And greater the opportunity to examine the paperwork and supporting security protocol as well. And axiom that cargo are at the risk is always a cargo at risk seems to imply that air cargo is less apt to be a target, but it is not the case. And the difference between the air cargo and other modalities is that in the air, the freight commodities become randomly blended with hundreds of other packages shipped by anyone or anyone to anywhere in the world, making each box a mere drop in a sea of similar looking packages. So that's why it's essential to do the proper packaging before you ship certain kind of cargo. So other people will not try to temper it or they will not plant the certain items like laglag bala, diba? They introduce the bullet in your baggages. So that's why they in the airport they introduce the plastic wrapping of your luggage bag. So that's also a kind of packaging itself. Pero here we are talking about the commercial air cargo. So there is a critical need to establish the basic security packaging mandates for the shippers to give the carrier and the handlers the best chance of discovering the irregularities in the cargo prior to its being put on board an aircraft. And recent introduction of intelligence monitoring into the air cargo security equations has begun to help identify potential threats and reduce the chances of tainted cargo being blindly accepted by the air carriers. Only through these basic methods of risk reduction can we avert the terrorist incident involving the air cargo. But as of now, the air cargo, the terrorist activity through the air cargo is less compared to the plantation of arms on board of the aircraft by certain people who have access to the aircraft before there's a boarding itself. So there has been far greater effort put forth to examine the passengers to examine cargo. In October 2001, the George W. Bush 2007 George W. Bush administration issued an executive order mandating 100% examination of cargo on commercial aircraft by 2010. And that task is both ambitious and surely doomed to failure since deploying such a system worldwide is unachievable because not all the country they can put that much effort and expenses buying those equipments which can inspect the cargo everything in shorter period of time. And the executive order mandated that all cargo boarded on to the passenger aircraft in United States be examined, x-rayed, and evaluate it. Funding has yet to be provided, and responsibility for this inspection has not been assigned. And the failure to create the global policy basically negates the executive order's effectiveness. And the air cargo is a cog in the worldwide supply chain and needs to be addressed globally. No regional proposals will work in any form of transportation. Solutions that fail to become all encompassing are rarely effective. Actually, that executive order didn't become that much effective because not all the country can afford those inspection items, and it was not mandated since it is just an executive order from the U.S. president. That means it's applicable to their territory only. It has not been transferred to the other countries. If it was issued by the EASA or ICAO, it will be implemented by the other member state as well. But the executive orders was dictating only for the airlines, which has the flight to and from the US territory only. Then the ugly stepchild, as I mentioned, someone planted the certain explosive and firearms in the cargo on the incident that happened in September 11, 2001, killing thousands of people. So in the year before September 11, 2001, since the cargo security has remained the stepchild of the world's supply chain, funding has been non-existent, and there was no existence of policy itself regarding the cargo security. And logisticians failed to become proactively involved with the lost control in their quest for the speed, cost reduction, and operational efficiency. Since government oversight of the commercial supply chain is taboo, no effective protocol has been established, leaving the problem to fester and the criminal elements to mature and perfect their craft unabated. And when the Department of Homeland Security established the programs such as Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism and the Non-Seaper Program, which was designed for the air cargo, they defined the best practice and rewards compliance with the operational efficiency. Although no laws were passed during that time to mandate the compliance of that partnership against the terrorism. And the trade to the shipper of the slower passage of cargo for those not willing to sign on was that was also one of the trade. Then the stick that was made compliance with the custom trade partnership against terrorism principle was a useful carrot. No TSA, no Department of Homeland Security, no the Department of uh, DOD or CPB programs or policies, however, have addressed air transportation vulnerability to the point where any one of them has required, legislated, or mandated any risk reduction component. And no practice have been recommended or adopted at the federal level, and neither carrot nor the stick have been offered to the participants. And it seems that the air cargo industry was expected to do the right thing, but since it was not defined, the industry has become its own monitor, resulting in no actions by anyone. So no one were able to take those actions because there was no department or anything that is monitoring that actions. So the lack of specificity in the policy has resulted in the cloudy interpretation of the requirements, making the proposed governmental program ineffective and inconsistent. Consistency is a basic tenet of effective security, and because we have not had the supply chain incident that by that time, by that 2001 September 11, and most American have become complacent complacent and feel confident that the government is actively participating in the securing the homeland of the or the US. So air cargo is potentially the weakest link in the supply chain, and therefore poses the greatest economic threat. Although the non-seaper program and the soon-to-appear certified seaper program are helpful in establishing the best practices for the containment and the control of unattended good, and little is clearly being done to close the security gap. Like the borders are more porous than ever, with the air freight volume increasing every day, and most focus on effective screening techniques and be more willing to settle for the reduced speed. While passenger and baggage observation and inspection have been improved, general air cargo, especially courier cargo, most randomly consolidated air freight, still undergo little or no scrutiny coming into the US because they will pass through the uh, different security inspection, especially those who are commercially operating as air cargo or commercial shippers like DHL, FedEx, etc., TNT, etc. Because they are complying those inspection program or the security programs strictly. That's why they have a policies, standard procedure, SOPs when they receive the cargoes. It will undergo through the different documentations, different inspection programs before it is being delivered to the receiver. And air vulnerability is not exclusively limited to the terrorist and the thieves. However, cargo can contain contraband food, illegal animals, artifact, skins, drug, currency, counterfeit items, and even items as small as insect or the fruit, whether they are brought to the different countries intentionally or by unintentionally without the knowledge. So they all present the real risk to the country, and that's the reason some of the country restrict the import of the animal items or the non-processed food, etc. So although some domestic and international passenger baggage is checked with the help of the dog x-ray and the reviewed intelligence and is visually inspected, air cargo is more often than not given a green light through most US airports with little or no real chances to interdict the dangerous material. There are still possibility, even though they undergo through the different inspection, the sniffing dogs, the X-rays, as well as the review of the documentations, review of the senders, etc. So, who is the threat in the air cargo security? When looking for an effective remedy for the supply chain security problem, regardless of the logistical environment, you must have an idea of your adversary. Time can often be an adversary in situations regarding the time sensitive goods such as body parts, vaccine, or the blood, because they just need to be transferred as soon as possible. And in some cases, damage might be based on the rough handling or even the mysterious disappearance of the cargo due to the cler- clerical errors. And losses can occur in the warehouse. It can occur on the trucks. It can occur on the airport property, such as in bond facility or the storage facility, or in any modality handling cargo. And the cargo in the transit is always accessible to the people. While the cargo is in the transit, it's accessible to every people who have access to that cargo handling. And many of these handlers have not been given appropriate vetting to guarantee the security of the goods or physical containment on the property. Many airside employees lack the skill to handle the sensitive good according to the given procedure as well. Because it's not necessary that all the people will be trained in the same way, especially in the logistic department. So their handling procedure will also be different, causing the damage to the cargoes, especially those cargoes which are sensitive, time sensitive plus handling sensitive. Just think about the trucking industry. For instance, remembering almost all air cargo is moved by the truck at some point in its cycle. The annual driver turnover rate in most common carrier companies is approximately 125%. So just to keep the truck on the road, business have had to accept applicants with the tainted or criminal record as well, and people with no permanent residence, and some who are hired on day-to-day basis, thereby creating havoc in investigating losses associated with the employees as well because of those handler, the truck drivers. So training and company integrity is consistently lacking in the transient labor pool, and this makes internal theft and vulnerability a significant concern. In the freight forwarding business, many carriers are known to the zipper or wristband because of the interlining. And interlining means that air carrier can legally choose to move your cargo by the truck or even by the rail without permission or the knowledge. That will also increase the risk of losses, especially like for example DHL. So you just need to ship from Manila to the certain place of the certain country. So it's their responsibility how they ship it. You cannot choose. You are going to transfer it purely by the air. Like if you turn over the cargo, they will bring by the truck to the certain airport. They receive it from their airport. Will carry to the certain other country's airport. From there, they might use the train to deliver it to the receiver or the other multiple mean mode of transports. Okay. So next, then in order to effectively plan for the threat and the adversary must be defined. Defining the threat begins with the forming immediate and potential risk into the matrix, weighing its components by the cost of loss and the way of providing remedy. As countermeasures are developed to tighten supply chain security, the overall effect is to gradually reduce its specific vulnerability to manageable level. And at this time, however, the trade-off for increasing security is operational inefficiency, which defeats the purpose of moving cargo by air. Because the moving the cargo by air is for the time, reduced time. Because the terrorist need only to be successful once to achieve his goal. The tries approach to controlling the security of your supply chain seems futile. Controlling the international supply chain is all but impossible. As already stated, not all trade are terrorist based, yet condition of loss pertain to any cargo at any time. It's not necessarily all the threats are because of the terrorists. It can be because of other non-terrorists or even through the accidental causes. So most companies address the threat to cargo from the most important downhoping that its remedy collaterally addresses lower level issue without complicating the system. And in order to effectively enhance the supply chain security, businesses must adopt the mandate programs set forth by the government. Programs that do not echo such federal mandates will become redundant, and money invested in them will also be lost. For this reason, many in the air cargo trucks and steamships freight industry have failed to agree to and implement the remedy to the terrorism. Basically, no one wants to start the program to be told later that if fails to comply with the recommended government program, since no program actually exists, no one is rushing to create his own. And whether funded internationally by the carrier, provided for the shipper or the client, or provided by the seaports and the airports, most modalities use the little effort to protect the freight. Because no consistent program apply, cargo remains at the risk from origin to destination. That's the reason also when you receive your Lazada deliveries, you can sometimes you can see broken items or mishandling, the tempered packages, etc. So they are the risks that we encounter. So unfortunately, little is being done by the U.S. government beyond the studies and non-binding suggestion to secure our national supply chain as well. Even here in the Philippines, same as well. And the process eventually choose to increase uh, security must be specific to the particular mode of transport and also be maintained throughout that industry on international basis. Many countries fail to require any such measures since they may not be able to fund them, or also because of the lack of technologies. They cannot afford the technologies to implement them. And the fact that the United States wants to benchmark technology does not make blind international compliance as well. Not all the people will follow, all the country will follow US as well as blindly. So before considering the implementation of security process, most countries will focus their effort on what is particular for their conditions. It can be because of the culture, because of the funding, but they need to study first. And in many cases, this will not even come close to the US standard as well. Not necessarily all country will comply as the US standard as well. culture, depending on their funding capability, as well as depending on their condition of the country. So, unlike the stable and predictable security for the home and office or even vehicles, supply chain security has number of interdependent dimensions that render most general proactive systems ineffective. The approaches to security and operational efficiency used by each vendor differ so radically that a final agreement on security measures would be almost impossible as well. Beside the fact that the freight is predominantly unattended, constantly moving, and changing hands, the protection available at any one location may be non-existent or unavailable as well, since the air cargo rarely hits the stop or choke point until it reaches the airport sorting center. Any implementation of interdictions and inspection technique must be a germane to each vendor, and handling facility as well as techniques must be germane to each vendor and handling facility as well as consistent for all cargo entering. And in air cargo, the carrier hauling the freight may change the numerous times for many reasons, all of which are unknown and unnecessary to be known as well by the shipper. So if the cargo is delivered on time, client expectations are met. So as long as the cargo is delivered to the receiver, the client expectation is met. So it doesn't matter how many times, for what reason, you change the cargo hauling from one truck to another, from one aircraft to another aircraft, from one aircraft to train, train to truck, truck to the delivery riders, etc. So it doesn't matter as long as the cargo is being delivered. So product in any product move where the threat against the specific cargo, such as pharmaceutical or the electronic, is high, especially like for example these days we are transferring the COVID-19 vaccines and even the batteries. So that time there are more threat, not to the country, to the cargo itself, because of these mishandlings. So you will need to know why someone wants to steal it or tamper with it in order to develop a deterrent strategy. And terrorist threats are far less complex than one would think. So their purpose is clear and direct, yet their technique, intricacy of the action plan, and the methodology are far more sophisticated and professionally orchestrated. Their motivations in terms of ideology, determinations, and reward of success, and their skill with will typically prevent you or your carrier from planning a suitable or sustainable defense. There's no doubt, however, that whether the threat is theft or the terrorism, your adversary is still a major concern. If dealing with this is not your business strategy, it should be. So, how can we address the threat? Let's see here what's written here. So, indicative packaging is a classic approach to the cargo security since it provides the unique identity for each package. Usually, it can be a barcode, it can be a control number, it can be a description written on it, or it can be a itemized content list. So, when visually inspectable packaging such as security tape, self-voiding seals is provided, and anomaly or obvious breach becomes apparent to its handlers as well because of those tapes or the seals, so thereby reducing the risk. So if there's those tapes is provided or the packaging is done by those using those tapes, so it's hard for the handlers to temper or to steal something from that package as well. So the threat to that package is reduced. So when the filter is provided that indicate the package has been compromised, the handlers stand better chance of finding pilfers cargo. If anyone along the supply chain is aware of the particular package appearance, unique marking, numbers, or the design, it is easier to ship the package in the good order than with if the ship is the generic box. So if the temper evident packaging is used, any handler along the supply chain has the benchmark of characteristic to use for more thorough inspection. The ability to visual inspection all cargo is beneficial to the shipper, carrier, and the recipient. The more user friendly the technology is, to the supply chain member, the more effective it will be in deterring problems. It will reduce the problems as well. So most indicative packaging device are in form of temper evident or the sock indicating the self-adhesive shields or the tips that helps to visually identify possible penetration or manipulations of the box, manipulation of the pallets, envelopes, or even the containers. So self-adhesive seals and the tips are the most common means of closure used for most cargo in the box or in the envelope. And when applied onto the bundle assets such as the sea container door, trailer doors, or aircraft hatches, the device effectively offer the containment to all of the product inside the device. The device such as temper evident tape and self-voiding security seals help to uniquely identify parcels as well as to indicate the penetration as well if the cargo is shipped through the aircraft in the big sizes. Then these types of seals are both cost effective and highly deterrent in nature also. They are typically compliant at the origin and provides the inspectability throughout the supply chain along the delivery process. Those tags will provide the inspection that there were no temporary tempers has been made to the package. So the more simple is the keep it simple, stupid. They are the greater their usefulness and effectiveness. So by creating the risk of discovery for the thief or the terrorist, you lessen the chance of event or loss as well. So adversarial analysis requires a adversarial analysis requires the working knowledge of person's ability to effectively complete his missions. Whether the mission is catching the quarry or the planting a bomb or perpetrator's ability to beat you is a mixture of his skills pitted against your countermeasures, but weakened by your inherent complacency. Your ability to mitigate loss revolves around your choice of countermeasures, trainings, and the reliability of your handlers as they carry out the complex coordination required when cargo changes the hand or the cargo changes the hand of the shipper or the handler. So theft or the act of terrorism occurs when the perpetrator surreptitiously gains the access to the cargo, either en route or prior to shipping or prior to delivery. So these situations can occur at any point throughout the transportation and storage phase of the shipping. Knowledge of the locations, movement, and the timing of the good complete timing of the goods completed with the level of risk the person is willing to take, as well as his motivations and his expertise plays a significant role in his success or the failure of avoiding those tempers of or the danger to those cargo. So your best defense is to plan for the problem before they arise and gear your practices to deter these activities. Neither theft or the terrorism are occurrence that anyone can completely eliminate. Regardless of the technology used, the security plans, or its practical application. And the perpetrator's reward for success and his ability to choose his time frame are factors that give him the upper hand, with the goal of speed in the air carrier industry as an additional barrier to the safety. The chances of deterring an act of terrorism or the theft is already in progress are limited at its best. So what's being done to secure the supply chain? We are talking about the U.S. With some of them, those process are also followed by the other countries as well because it was mandated by the ICAO and IATA. So when President Bush created the Department of Homeland Security in 2002, its idea was to create a central hub for sharing the informations and for the selections, choice, and implementation of the remedy to terrorism. The concept was designed to reduce the risk of the terrorist strike in the US soil by stepping up the processes needed to discover the problems before they do the harm. And the concept was further directed at reducing the vulnerability to the attack through the commercial worldwide supply chain by sharing and analyzing the business data. by combining all government effort into the centralized review process for the cargo and intelligences. President Bush felt that the deterrent value would be overwhelming and thereby curtail the trade as well, or thereby reduce the trade as well. So his goal would be achieved at least initially by the use of intelligence service and the analysis of data relating to the inbound cargo. That is to identify the suspect shipment and the shippers, and to interdict the associated cargo as well. So President expected that he would get better physical inspection of cargo and the willing participation of the industry, and that his program would become the standard by which the United States would secure its border and thereby establish logistical security as the defense against another September 11. By using the best and brightest tacticians to review the inbound cargo data, the Department of Homeland Security could theoretically identify the shipping anomalies and interdict the suspect cargo before it will reach the U.S. territory. Then creation of 24 hours reporting rule for containerized cargoes set the stage for data verifications and began to offer the hope to the shipping public of an effective security effort within the air cargo industry. With the ability to act unilaterally, the Bush also felt that these policies administered by the central agency would be the cornerstone for the risk reduction worldwide related to the air cargo. And instead of this succinct, focused concept, we now have more than 350,000 people in newly formed or self-contained bureaucratically called TSA DSS. It's only for the US. That was by 2007 actually. But here in the Philippines, we also have those kind of manpower, transport security. They also inspect those baggages, everything. So that is so mired in its own layer of interpretations of President's simple original security plan that it has effectively done nothing to secure our supply chain or our border. Of note, there has been no positive or the effective actions in the air cargo or in the domestic trucking, and there has been only some basic improvement in the containerized sea freight. We have spent more money on defining and analyzing the potential problem than on solving the known risk by a ratio of 5,000 is to 1. That's a 2007 ratio. Pero the ratio is being reduced now. So we have there's of thousands of untrained part-time transport security agents, TSA passengers, air inspector, and arm them with the state-of-art technology for security with relations to the cargo that sits directly below these passengers. And these now permits Canadian and Mexican trucks to cross border. So we can escape. It's not related to the Philippines and international as well. So passenger protection, that is what is visible to the public, is simply a confidence builder with the low effectiveness against the professional adversary, with over almost 5 billion US dollar in dedicated asset to secure the skies. And TSA also has spent 55 million on protection technology for the air cargo in the US only. And TSA is well-meaning but has shown itself organizationally inept and ill-equipped to mandate, implement, select, and or the fund chains in security process for their cargo across the board. There is neither any reasonable systems that can detect every form of contraband, nor any way to guarantee 100% success in any security in the US. That's why even in the US, a lot of people still transfer the contrabands, diba? They introduced to the country. That's why they are implementing a lot of things. The sniffing dogs who are trained to detect those drugs. There are trained sniffing dogs who can detect the money. The trained dogs who can detect huge amount of money. The firearms, the explosive, etc. So, however, with the challenging industry to self-impose systems and to create more stringent criteria for the ensuring the integrity of their cargo, we will not improve our current conditions. Then security is not a perfect science as well. Kasi we cannot secure it everything. Kahit we try to secure everything, there's still possibility that there might be a loophole. And these days they are implementing the RFIDs for detecting the cargoes as well, especially for your baggage, diba? In some countries only, not here in the Philippines yet. The Philippines there is still on based on the barcode, not yet the RFID. But certain countries like Singapore, Thailand, UAE, Dubai Airport, they are already implementing the RFIDs on your baggages. So once you check in, they will stick the RFID to your baggage, so it will pass through the different non-man systems. That means the man will not touch it until it goes to the aircraft. So we can read these three more topics: buying in, what's being done, since we cannot finish it within this 1 hour time, the cost of loss, then possible unilateral solutions, specific risks and threat, the damages, important here for the exam as well from this part. Smuggling, there's a possibility of smuggling also, not only in the US, even in the Philippines, they are smuggling contrabands. That's why the government is fighting with the drug. And the cargo that is either misclassified to avoid the tariffs or duties, or is made up of illegal or banned goods or people. Even here in Philippines, they are importing the truck, ano, sophisticated vehicles, declaring the low tax. That's also a smuggling. So, and that's also a security threat in the air cargo. Mostly those big items, they are shipped through the ships or the waterways, while only smaller and more valuable items like gold, diamonds, or other jewelries, they are shipped through the aircraft. So that's still by declaring the low value. So that's still smuggling. Then not only those items, there are other items like explosive biologics inside the cargo, like for the internal cargo, for domestic, they still allow to carry the different fruits, different cook items. But for the international, they do not allow you to carry the fresh items, vegetables, the cooked items, non-processed items, etc. And also possibility those terrorist-minded people, they can introduce those items which are technically toxic materials that can affect the people on board. That's also a part of smuggling. Yun lang. So if anyone have a questions, you can ask the questions in the comment section of the canvas. I will not accept any canvas. Sorry, comments on the place where I will upload. I will just share the link in the canvas. Just watch the video na lang. And it will be followed by the activity. Plus, there will also be final exam on the March 1, I think the schedule provided by the ACAD. So for that one, I will still be having the another one more meeting where I will be discussing two more topics. So four topics will be the part of our final exam. So that's all. Have a nice